So these are the files it's creating. These are all out of template. So we're using Ember blueprint here. So if you've ever used Ember. And still running through NPM. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to run back to the slides, and we'll let this happen in the background and take a look at it. So basically, when it's all done, I'll have a video and go to that in probably a couple of minutes, maybe a minute. So once you have that, you can serve the app up, and we'll go back to that once it's ready. So this is a really cool server called Byte Server. It's John Pop, I guess. It's on his GitHub page. So it's basically an Angular node server, so it knows about routes and it knows what to send to the server and what to keep on the client. So if you bookmark something, it'll send you to the right place. And, I use it personally for everything. These slides are being presented through Light Server as well. So what we're going to do when this is done is we're going to walk through the actual code, but I'll go ahead and start walking through the slides as well. Does anybody have any questions about the first part? Is basically just talking about Angular CLI and what it's good for.
Did you do some setup before you did this, or you're doing it there?
Yeah, this is almost exactly what you would do at home or here. You do this install, which I skipped over because I already had it, and then I did the help, which you would do immediately after, and then generate that. That's it. So no magic really. That's really all that is required.
What's the minimum node and NPM version?
They say it's 4. I use 622 with no problem. 62 is the latest mainline, unless you go through, you can actually get 7 on GitHub if you're really into it. But I don't know if it works with 7. I've only done it with 4 and 6. A couple of different varieties of 6. So you can go anywhere from 4 up to 6, I think. But on that point, I would either use the latest 4 or I would use the latest 6. I wouldn't try to stay anywhere in between. That's the trouble. But if you've got some long-lived project, use 4. And if you've got something that especially your local dev environment, maybe go and use 6. If it breaks, just roll it back a little bit. See where we are now. Okay. Any other questions about the basics before we dive into what the code does? Jeff, what was your GitHub? It's Jeff Philippi. Like the
CHI?
Oh,
FIL.
Yeah, FILIPPI, and it's. I always tell people Mississippi, 2 P's, but because everybody. And it's the same as my Twitter handle. So if you follow me on Twitter, you'll. Fortunately, it's a really rare name, so I get it everywhere. Okay, so we're gonna do a walkthrough, and then we'll go when it's all done, look at the actual code. And actually, I have one. Maybe I'll do that. I have one that I did before, so I'm choosing them. So this is the same thing effectively. We'll go back to the one running live and see if anything interesting changed. Because I generated this based on beta 6 of the CLI. So I expect at least the router to be different. So here's what our application looks like when it's generated. And even if you don't use the CLI, it should, when you get to this point, it should look something like this. So if you do this by hand, this is a good guideline, right? What we want here is an app component. So in Angular 2, even your app is a component, and everything beneath it is also a component. So it's basically a tree of components. And so the main node is called our app. And in the first, when I built these slides, I used Angular 2 Kickstart as my project name. So you'll see, a component TypeScript. So this is going to be where what you would have called in the old days your controller, Angular 1. That would be your controller. Although component is the term we use now. And you also see your template, your view template, and that's still called a template URL. And you also, if you have CSS that's specific to your app, you can put it there. You can also import like bootstrapped and things like that. And then there's some other things which we can get into, but we don't. May not in this, but if you've heard of barrels, you'll put your barrels here in index.ts, and maybe ask it later if you want to hear more about that. See how long it is. And so I'll just show you that in live. So source app. So this is what we're talking about here. So it would have generated this app, and this would be the content. And probably worth looking at. Yeah. So this is what a component looks like in the generator. And like I said, it might look slightly different with the latest. So import component. So you're basically bringing a component from Angular in the core project. You've got your decorator that tells you how to, basically the metadata about the component, including the very important template URL to tell you what your template looks like and what styles you might want to use. And so what I can do here is I can do, like I can do ng serve. So by default, it serves on 4200. So this is what your generated app will look like. That you Kickstart works, and obviously it's pretty boring to start with, but that's totally fine, right? And this is all coming out of the template, and I use template URLs. If you are if you're like the React crowd, you might want to put your templates in line. That's totally fine. You're welcome to do that. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm more old school. I like my things separated, so totally it's at your discretion. So you can actually, instead of using template URL, you can say template and put a literal string right here, and that'll be your template. And you can also put inline styles if you like, or you can put a CSS style. So it's really flexible, but I like my stuff separated. Some people like their stuff mixed up. And it might depend on your size of your app too. If you've got a really giant app with lots of developers, you might want to do it the way I like to do it. If you're doing it by yourself, you might still want to put them right here. And both are fine. There's nothing wrong with either approach. It's really a style preference at that point. So that's our application, and that's our application component. So everything is kind of under the tree from here. So one thing I really like to talk about, and I think is really important to know, is how does my app start? Like, what's the entry point? And I think that helps you if something goes wrong. It's like, well, let me start at the beginning, go back, make sure my bootstrap's working and stuff. So you can do that. So we'll go back to the source index. Like almost every web app under the sun, starts with your index page, right? And that's not shooting a big shock. You've got one thing that's really cool or important to know, like with the router, it's fine if you're running it under root, like / on your doc root or whatever. But if you're not, because projects I work on, some of them run under other folders, you definitely want to set that here. Otherwise, you're going to wonder why it doesn't work. So remember, I told you that. Set that here. I'm not using Surface Worker support, but that's where that goes. And here's where your directive is for your actual component. This is specified in your other that file I just showed you. But this tells Angular where to inject that main component. And then what you have here is a few shins. And just to make, you're not going to put all your scripts here. You're just going to put the ones that you need to get started and the things that your browser eventually will have but doesn't have yet. So how to, something for ES6, we'll skip over a couple of these, but your module loader and your execution context library zone. That's something your browser doesn't have, but these little shims take care of that and lets Angular load. And then you have your system, basically your system bootstrapping here. So system is the new module loader that lets you load ES6 style modules. So, and that's what Angular 2 is built based on. So you'll need this, or you'll have to do it some other way. But I recommend this. That's there. But here we're importing our component, which we haven't looked at yet, but we'll be looking at shortly. And let's see. And that's pretty much it. And then we bootstrap our main component. So we bootstrap our app. And so that's how the bootstrapping process works. And that's how Angular loads up and knows how to get running. So any questions about bootstrapping and the initial application? So the other thing you want to know about is configs. How do I configure my app? So we've got Angular. This is in your projects group, in your config directory. So let's take a look at a couple of these. So Angular. So this is how Angular CLI itself is configured. You really don't need to mess with this a lot unless you want to change it. But like I said, what it does is it configures your test. It shows where your test config, where your protractor config is, where your app's entry point is, so main TS, and your TS config for your TypeScript configuration, and then a couple other minor things. So it's nice to know where it is, but most of the time you're not going to want to go in there. I think the one exception here is when you add third-party stuff. We'll talk about that. And you see a lot of projects without package JSON files anymore. I don't think this is that, right? And, here's what we're importing, at least in the old, the 2 betas ago. Angular, and Angular has modules for different parts, so common, compiler, core. They're all separate, and so sometimes you need them, and sometimes, depending on your platform. And this is the router that we were using, and we're going to be on a new router. We'll take a look at what changed in the last couple betas. But yep. And then a few things to run ES6 and these things. So these are the things that we just looked at the imports for. So those are, you install them through this configuration. And then these are actually shipped with your project, but these others are you're only going to use them at dev time, including Codalizer, which we'll talk about, and Karma, Jasmine, Protractor, TypeScript, and stuff like that. So, and then let's see. I'm going to skip over the rest of these. TypeScript, your config is in there as well, and your config for the type definitions is in there as well. But we're not going to go into all that. I already talked about base href. So if you want to host your, like for me, my login page is /login. So you change that here if you want your route to work. Don't forget that. And then we talked a little bit about the root component and where that is in index.html. So yeah, just reiterating on the system loader. This is not something you have to really touch, but it's important to know, I think, where it is in case you run into trouble. And then this is, again, the bootstrapping process, right? So we import the bootstrap so that we have access to it, and then we bootstrap our app. So that's kind of the pattern to think about. And this is just another look at the root component that we already looked at. So, does anybody have any questions about the app we just created? Maybe we'll see. It is. So what I'll do is I'll do an ng serve on the new one.
I have one question.
Yes,
In the tf.json at the base of the project, there's a property called module that is set to common JS. I was wondering what exactly that is.
Okay, great. That's a great question. So when you're writing TypeScript, and if you didn't hear the question, in the config file, we were looking at the configuration for TypeScript was common.js. like what's my, and what that means is, let's look at that here in the new app. See where that actually was. You remember what file that was in?
Yes, .json.
Oh, okay, cool. Where did I go? Okay, yeah, cool. And this is now we're looking at the new app, the one I just generated when we were talking. So this is your TypeScript config, and the question was about CommonJS, right? So because your browser doesn't and may never understand TypeScript, likely never, I mean, who knows? You've got to pick a module format that you want to compile it to. You can do, you have a variety of options. There aren't a ton of different module formats, but you have AMD, CommonJS in particular, and I don't know if it does any others, but CommonJS is more the Node standard. So how does Node and things like Rhino and I forget what the other one's called. How do they do modules? They do it with CommonJS format, which is the var require equal var your variable's name equals require the module. And contrast that with AMD. If you've ever used require.js, it has a different module format. And so you can specify what you want your TypeScript to be compiled to, and Angular defaults to CommonJS. So it works the same way Node and Browserify, and that class of Webpack I think uses as well. So that's what that switch means. Any other questions?
What's the advantage of using live server over something like Node just to serve up your files?
Sure. Yeah. So light server is a Node server. It's a Node server. So, but you can use all kinds of Node servers, and I used to use one called HTTP server or something like that. Very basic. But the problem you'll run into if you do something like light server is if they're not aware of client-side routes, if you bookmark something, it may give you like back 404, when in fact your app was supposed to handle that route. And fortunately, things like light server know how to do that. They say, well, anything below the route I know about, I'm not going to handle. I'm going to let the client do that. And so it makes your dev environment a little pain when you're working on client-side routes. It makes it easier. You don't end up like refreshing the page and getting like a weird result. So I think that's the main thing. But the other really cool thing about things like light server is when I change a file, it knows what I changed, and it actually goes and that does a browser reload behind the scenes. So the really good workflow is you've got your editor open like on one side, and you've got your app open on the other side, and you change some code on the right, and it takes that up, and you don't have to like switch back. Right. So that's why I like it and things like that. Actually, like a couple nights ago, I moved my slideshow presentation to light server because I was like, well, I'm sick of reloading the page every time I change markup. So why should I do that on light server? So yeah, that's the idea. It's LITE server, and you can all see all that in packages. Should be in the dev dependencies. Not sure. Actually, I think that does it. They must wrap it up somehow. Maybe under a different project. Oh, it's part of an Angular CLI. So when you install Angular CLI, it's a dependency of Angular CLI. Okay. Yeah, no problem. When you look at Angular CLI's package, I expect it to be. Maybe it's a dependency of dependency. I'm not really sure.
CDM here page.
We'll do that. Yeah, John Papa likes it. That's cool. Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. So, it's great that it creates an app for you. Awesome. That's one less thing I have to do, right? But what about tests? What about code linting, all this stuff? Like, we in our generator, our Yeoman generator, we put all that stuff in there. It took us a while. You got to get it all working together, and your code formatter and your linter have to agree on stuff like that. So here's all the tools that come out of the box, and we'll run some of those tools and see what they do. And I'm going to run them on the new project, so let's see what that looks like. All right, we'll do it on the old project. So we can do things like ng. So we're actually doing a build, and our build goes in dist, and we'll go over there and look at it. So it's kind of a lot, but all of our dependencies have been published, and there's so many. We won't even look at all, but there is a distributable result there, and unit test. So I can do ng test. Ran all my tests, and my test passed. I have 2 tests, so great. Also protractors, so you can do end-to-end tests. Oh,
Can I see an example unit test real fast? Just in this?
Let's do that. So those, for example, the way you're going to find those, and you can see now, I'm in dist. Let me get out of that. For example, an app, if you want to look at your app zone test, you have that called spec there. So this is just a typical Jasmine test. There's nothing really fancy going on here. It is using the nice new ES6 module format, so you can import the things that you care about. It's also written in TypeScript, so you get type checking in your test, which is fantastic because there's like whole classes of unit tests that you don't actually have to write anymore, like the ones that check what did I get a number or did I get a string. You don't have to do that anymore. You can just assert the type. So like half your test, unit tests can go away and you can start worrying about more important unit tests. But here's just a regular Jasmine test, and it does use the fat arrow syntax from TypeScript and obviously ES6 and stuff. So I'm just saying, that you create an app, and here's the app I'm testing, and I just expect the app to be there, And, the app should have a title, and the title should be the thing I generated. So you'll notice here, this test was generated when I generated the app. So I don't have, it's all working, and I have 2 tests to pass, which is usually the hardest part about testing is getting it all set up. It's not like writing the test, right? And so getting it all set up where you can pass 2 tests, like the very moment you generate your app is fantastic, because when your developers come along and they see that there's already tests there, they just add one more. They don't have to build the infrastructure for testing. So the 2 tests it ships with or generates are, there should be an app, and it should have the title that I generated, and then you go from there. And if you generate anything else, that'll also show up. It'll generate a test for that. So, yeah, I think I do, yeah. So, I'm not going to show them all here because I have other stuff. Linter, so you can check your code for style issues and for syntax issues, which is, especially if you're like me and you haven't been doing TypeScript that long, it's really helpful to have a tool to teach you where you're messing up, in addition to the type checking tools, which are also awesome. And the really cool thing about the linter, it uses this project called Codalizer, which will verify your code against the John Papa style guide, which is, it just blows my mind. That's awesome because you can have all of the all the cool community contributed, best practices like enforced with your tools, and you can even break the build on them if you want. So also type definitions, CSS preprocessors like fast and left, and even they do actually have a few deployment targets, so you can deploy to GitHub and things like that. But yeah, we already showed you the build. Basically, it takes all your code, makes it ready for deployment, and puts it in this folder. And you can chain things onto that if you want to do, if you want to go into the video. Also, unit tests, we looked at those. But we didn't look at the end-to-end tests, so let's do that. So I've already got my app serving. And here it is, right? So make sure you do that. If you run the end-to-end test and your app's not running, it's not going to work. NGE2E is the target. Let me clean that. Oh, that's not right. E2E. And so I'm going to bring it up. We'll draw it. I might do it in Chrome. I don't remember what their target was. Yeah, it's in Chrome. So pop my app, check that the message says it works. So they actually look for this message. And then, yeah, it works. So 101 spec passes. And let's look at those tests real quick. And those are so here in your E2E folder. So here in your E2E folder, you can see the protractor test. And, if you use protractor, it's a lot like Jasmine, but for a different purpose. And what we're trying to do here is actually run our app in the browser and sometimes click on things. Sometimes we want to make sure it goes to the database and gets your result back. This app doesn't do that yet, so it's not going to have those cases. But basically, just want to pop it in the browser, actually check it out your WebDriver, Selenium, and make sure that it works in the browser as well as on the command line. So, and that's stuff that typically getting your test infrastructure set up takes more than 20 seconds. So it's good that on the app does the CLI like that. So yeah, it's raving about this license dog guide checker. Let's see what it does. ng-lint is the command, and it's expected to pass. Let me see. Yeah, so all files pass linting. Well, that's pretty easy, right? So let me make it not pass. And I'll go into the app and mess something up here. Maybe I'll just do something. Comma on the end. That's usually bad news, right? Not TypeScript. Maybe something a little nastier.
Double quote, the double quote.
In here. I'll do that. I'll do one double quote. That's kind of good. Yeah, it's already done. I'll do it. Yeah, if your editor doesn't tell you that, you probably. No, fine. All right. Well, whatever. Definitely bad news. Don't do that. It should. Well, you get the idea. When it's fixed. All right. Yeah, but that's probably not much of an app, right? So it generates something else. So I'm gonna generate a new component. Okay, so we just created a new component, and that was one little command line, right? ng generate component and name it. So now I can go check that out. to do live is wire all these things up like they are. So here's another component, and I named it, and it's just like the original component. So you've got the selector that you attach to template URL, or you can always do it inline. There's options on the generate command where you could say I'd rather have my styles inline, so it'll give you the different options. But I like it this way, so I like the default. And new components have they have to implement the on init interface. So that's here. So, and you can see I've got my test, I've got my my template and my CSS all generated, and I can also got a place to put my barrels. So that goes here. All right. And so, I'm not. Well, maybe I will. Let's see how I feel. But basically the way you hook this component up is you import your component, your new component, into your root component. And then you would put that selector in the root template, and then you'd add a roots components directive to the directive array. Let's try it. I don't know if I'll be able to pull it on. It's always fun to try. So let's go into the new component, and we're going to. Oh, we need to go to the old component. I'm going to import the name of my component. I forgot already what I called it. So my new demo. This. And it's not coming from regular core anymore. It's coming from my new demo. I forget how this goes. My new demo component. Basically, you just have to locate it. That's not right. But anyway, get the idea. So you import it, and then you have to put the selector, which you already have, but you have to put this selector in the other component. So we're going to put that selector in this template. So I'll put that here.
So would be the demo component.
Oh, yeah. So use the same selector that you defined here. And then you just have to add that root components, add the new component to the root components directive array. So my root component doesn't have a directive array, so I need to create a new one. the added directive. So if you have more, you add more. So that's, I've got something wrong with the input, but that's how you would hook it up. And then that would render in your template. So you can also generate services. So, you know, in Angular 1, you write, you know, you probably put a lot of different things in the component, or your controller, including maybe going out to the web and fetching something. But the good practice for Angular 2, and it's still actually good practice in Angular 1, is to actually move all that logic up into a reusable service. So, you know, you might or you might not be that familiar with how to write services, but it's actually really easy to generate them. So we'll go ahead and generate one. Okay, so we can take a look at that. So this is what Angular 2 service looks like. Don't get into trouble. Always just put injectable in your services, and you'll be fine. If you use Angular CLI, it'll do it for you. But basically, the only thing a service absolutely needs is injectable, which allows it to be injected into components, which is typically where you use it. But you can also, you know, add like HTTP and other things, whatever your service does, in there as well. So this is a very simple service that does nothing, but that's how you would generate one. And then put your HTTP calls or whatever in there. You can also generate routes, and you know, and it actually does a little bit of wiring for you. So I'm going to go ahead and do it, but I'm not going to wire it up. ng generate route. Okay, so here you'll see a new route, and what you'll notice is there's a plus in front of it, like that. So the plus is for lazy load routes. So the old router, basically all your code would be, you know, the old Angular 1 even, your code would be loaded up, you know, and even if you don't ever visit the route, you know. So what they want to do with the new router was say, well, if I have customers that don't use the admin page, why should they load the code for the admin page? And so this prevents that the necessity of that, at least once all the kinks are worked out. But the kind of the convention for a lazy loader route is the plus sign, and so Angular CLI takes care of that for you. One thing, like if you're actually building apps, don't do what I just showed you and generate the service and generate the component. Actually, just generate the route, and you'll see that the component's generated for you with the route. So don't just keep that in mind. Like that was something that kind of threw me off when I was building my first app with the CLI. I was like, well, actually, I don't need a component, at least if it's my main component, because it's already in the router. So just go and generate a new route and then use that as your base component for that route. So let's take a look at the route real quick. So this is what it gives you, including the imports that you need. And like I said, it's a proper component. So this is just like the components we're already looking at. There's templates for that. But mostly this looks just like a component. But it also does some of the wiring for you, but there's a few other steps you have to take when you're actually creating a route. And that changes, the routers change like twice since the last two betas, so you'll have to kind of check the docs for like the latest way to do it. And this is actually brand new. It's just landed a few days ago. If you want to upgrade your Angular app to the latest Angular and the latest CLI even, this is how you do it. And I've never done this before, so I thought we would do it together. It'd be fun. So let's try it. So what you do is you go into your app and you remove node modules, dist, and text. So I'm going to do that. And these are, the reason you do that is generated files or files you download. And then you actually update your CLI. I showed you how to install the CLI in your global, but you also want to update the CLI per package. Or in some cases, you may want to leave it out of date because you're not ready to update it yet. But when you decide you're ready to update it, here's how. And so we're going to do that. And don't know how it's going to work because we've never done it. So basically, like I said, I'm installing the latest version of Angular CLI just for my project. I've already done it. And I don't know how long it's going to take, but we'll move on. And then there's a really cool feature which I've never used before. It's brand new, which will do an ng init on your project, and it'll actually tell you what you need to change to update your code to the latest, which is really cool. It's something that they told us they were doing in ngconf, and I've never seen it, so we'll find that. While that's working, I'll hopefully answer or address any questions in this much further.
So what did you just say? You also want to, when you're upgrading Angular CLI, you want to do those 3 steps earlier, uninstall and clear the cache. And
yeah, so there's 2 things about upgrading Angular CLI. And the main one, the first one we looked at was, okay, how do I update my global configuration? So if I want to create a new app, I do ng new in the name of my app, and it's a new app. So that's my global Angular CLI installation for any project, right? But every project that you generate also has its own local install of a certain version of Angular CLI, which is the one that you built it with. And so those 2 things work together because the local version of your individual project tells the global version what version you built it with. So when you this is the same thing with like similar to like NPM and Grunt or Gulp, if you've used those. There's the global version, and then there's the version that your actual project's built on. And you want to be able to tell the difference, right? Because I might want to go start a new project with a new version of Grunt or Gulp or Angular CLI, but I might need to go back next week to my old project, and I don't want to have to be updated yet. I want it to work with the old version, and so they have the same basic idea. So the first thing we looked at, which I'll show you, is this is how you update your global CLI. And I like to keep mine at the latest. And so what you want to do is uninstall the old one, and then I want to do a clean cache npm so I don't get some stale packages. And then I want to npm install with the very latest. So what that does, that takes care of your global installation of CLI, and that means when you start a new project, you'll be starting with the latest. But it doesn't do anything on the old project because you might not be ready to do that yet. So for the old project, the one I did like a few months, maybe a month ago, I want to use this, and that's what we're doing right now. And that's actually done. I don't know what it's going to do, but the one thing that you can do now, which I've never done, so we'll enjoy it together, is I'm going to do this ng init, and what they advertise is it'll tell you what you need to change about your old app to make it a new app. With the latest Angular. So it's telling me that it's going to overwrite editor config, and I think I can do a diff here. And so it's telling me this is what I'm changing about your config. Do you want it, or do you want to do it yourself, or do you want to not do it at all? Let's do it. And it's also going to do some stuff for my index file. Well, let's take a look at that, because who knows what that's going to be. And so it's showing me, okay, well, these are the changes I want to make to your index file. This is really cool, because basically it's showing you how to update your Angular app. And you can do it by hand, or you could let them guide you through it. And this is a brand new feature, it's only a few days old. So it's saying, okay, well, I don't want to use I want to use the new star syntax for import. I want to export everything now. So great, that's really cool. I wouldn't have thought to do that necessarily. And the other problem is, like, if you go through and manually try to update your app, you might miss something, and it will be broken. And you'll be like, this stupid upgrade. It's like, it cost me days, right? But maybe not anymore, who knows? That's, at least that's the vision, is like, every time they upgrade, they're gonna show you how to upgrade, so you don't have to like suffer, through these like, through the churn. So I'm gonna go take the new, index, fave icon, I'm not gonna look at it. I'm sure that's fine. Index.html, definitely. Actually, let me do it yet. So they changed some configuration on the script tag, and they also made a really nice. I've never seen this before, but basically your polyfills, you don't have to do them yourself anymore. They're now in the template. And let's see anything else interesting there. Yeah, it's all good. So and then main. Let's see what main did. And this is really important to look at, though, because you may have built code up, and maybe their suggestion isn't right for you, or maybe you're just not ready for it. So it gives you the chance to say, hey, hold on, I don't want you to do that thing that you're trying to do. But hopefully it'll be right most of the time, and we'll see. The difference here is I gave my app a different name than they gave it. So if I did this, who knows what will happen, so maybe I'll take it, though. But basically that's the diff here, is like, I called my app a certain thing, and they expect it to be called different things. I'll go ahead and take their updates, because I can generate a new app anytime I want, right? So system config, let's see what they did there as well. Okay, so they've actually taken out some of my new component, my new route, which normally you might not want to do, but so it's your discretion, but it's kind of your call. But here, like normally I would not do this, but this is a little throwaway demo, so I'm going to do it. And we can look at tsconfig as well. And so it just changes your map route, and I don't know what that does, but I'll trust it. And typing, let's see what that did. We didn't look at typings, but just some comments. That's totally safe. Whatever, just that. And then we'll see what they did to our build file. So they added our map files in. That's kind of cool. So for debugging, we'll see the source maps. Take that. And let's see what they did to the CLI file. Okay, just added a couple of additional defaults, including the lazy route prefix I was telling you about. So we'll take that. So you get the idea. I don't know how long it will take to get this. Hopefully, it'll be a lot less than if you had to do it yourself. And it'll remind you of things you may have forgot to do or not know to do. And it seems like a pretty cool feature, because like when I want to be on the latest code, and now I've got a tool to help me. So, it's brand new, and I've never played with it before, and it's only been out a few days, so hopefully you guys get a chance to try it out. Anyway. Cool. Does anybody have any questions?
So the CLI is for changing the name of the component. Let's say you change the name of the search box. I thought I heard pop-up.
I don't know the answer to that. Yeah, I don't know. I've never tried it to do that way. You could certainly generate a new one and like paste the code over, but I don't know if it supports renaming.
And do they only support TypeScript?
It does only support TypeScript. They definitely plan to support other languages, not languages, maybe not languages, but they plan to support ES6 without types, and they also plan to support ES5 even. But I think that's going to be way behind. So hopefully by the time a lot of people want that, they'll either contribute because really it's Ember Blueprint, so somebody has to build a blueprint that does that, but it's not that hard to do. So I expect the community to start pitching in some of that.
Does the light server convert your stats files to Go as well?
Which files?
Stats files?
Yes, it does. Okay. Well, ng-build does that. So ng-build has a watcher, so ng-build will convert them.
Does the build process not minify or concatenate or anything like that? Or
It will, yeah, it just has like that. Yeah, it does all the production stuff that you do, the minification, concatenation, and it does source maps. Anything else about CLI or Angular 2 roughly? All right, that's what I have for you. Appreciate it. All right. Great, Jeff, that was awesome. Thank you. That was a great presentation. Any other questions at all? I still got them here? No? I'll be around. All right, sounds good. I know we're using CLI on a couple projects actively right now. It saves us a lot of time. We're able to generate up stuff very, very quickly. And we're using a lot of features. It's interesting. I did not know about the NGNet and the upgrade path, and I was struggling with it today and attempting to get RC3 in and whatnot. So that would actually have been a really nice presentation yesterday. So no, it's really good stuff, and I think it's definitely a better alternative than what we've done maybe in the past using like Yeoman generators. And I don't know if you've ever gone down that path of attempting to maintain templates and whatnot. You do a lot of npm link and go back and reach. No, that wasn't it. You know, and back and forth, and so it turned out really nice. So Jeff, thanks for coming and doing this. And so a little bit of pizza left. We picked up some more beer, so there's plenty more beer. Hang out for a little bit.